Welcome to the Happy Half Hour podcast, everybody. Join us as we chat with a host of happy hour friends who live and work in and around our amazing city of Bristol. We discover what part they play in making TV commercials, feature films and video content, from behind the scenes anecdotes to advice on how to make you look good on screen. The Happy Half Hour is going to be featuring industry experts who bring the happy to their work. How did I do? Was that all right?
Yeah, it's nice.
Was that a good start? So I'm delighted to welcome Elle Dimond, who is a Bristol-based director and creative producer, and somebody that we've worked with on many occasions. Elle.
Hi.
How are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you think to the studio?
It's nice.
It's nice, yeah?
Wooden feature walls, good.
Yeah.
Artificial plants, you know.
Made with... Hey, whoa, don't break the illusion. These are... I water these every single day. We've got a little clapperboard with your name on it there.
Oh,
by the way.
Nice
Not sure
touch.
if you can see that on the screen. If I were to meet you at a networking event...
Yeah, those things, yeah.
Say like something relatively formal, like a LinkedIn summer party or something, sounds fun. But
Yep. Okay.
if I were to meet you there and you we'd never met before and you had to get across what you did, how would you introduce yourself?
I would say, hi, I'm Elle. I'm a director, primarily, and work in commercials and corporates, I guess. But sometimes you might find me doing other things in that world as well, creative producer as well, but primarily a director. So I make things.
You make things?
Yeah.
Yeah. What kind of things?
Really varies. Short films, sometimes short form content for socials, or it could be something for advertising, an advert. Mainly, I would say couple of minutes, but sometimes it can be like a longer documentary. But yeah, make things for clients who need video in a very kind of simplistic way.
Nice. Do you ever make things for yourself?
Do you know what? Not as much as I should do.
Right.
Used to.
Yeah.
But I don't have the time anymore.
No. Okay.
But that's one of my New Year's resolutions, if I had them, was to make more things for myself.
For yourself?
Yeah.
As in more kind of passion projects or...
Yeah, more passion projects or just more things that I feel like a lot of the time when you're making things for other people, you conform a lot of your creative to what they want. And it'd be nice to make something that creatively is what I want.
Yeah.
So, yes, I would like to do that more of that.
Cool. So something to look forward to next year.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe. Right. Okay. So, we're recording this podcast from Happy Hour's new studio here in the heart of Bristol. Are you born in Bristol or raised in Bristol or?
No, I was born in Leicestershire.
Leicestershire.
So I went to school in Leicestershire and then went to Dimond Foundation at Leicester de Montfort and then decided I wanted to go to university and primarily came to Bristol because I really like the city. Came to an open day, went to Barrow Ashton, thought, yeah, this is the place I want to be. And have been here ever since.
You went to Dimond Uni?
Yeah, did a foundation.
Yeah. And then came here?
Yeah.
And what did you do when you first got off the boat in Bristol?
What, as in when I first...
When you first got to Bristol, what was...
Well, I lived in Park Street, so I went out.
Right, okay. How old were you?
18, 19, I think.
18, 19.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, Bristol's a great city. And living on Park Street, right in the centre of the city... everything under your feet, you just kind of, there's everything to explore. So yeah, it was a great city. But I didn't study film though. So
okay.
Yeah, I studied illustration initially. Really wanted to just draw, although I wasn't like a classic illustrator, not a children's book illustrator. So I kind of never really quite fitted into the course. So I ended up doing animation.
Okay.
And sort of did a dual honours in the end.
Right. Oh, cool. So can I ask, what year was that, do you think? We're going to age you, aren't you?
I graduated in 2006.
What did like the animation scene look like in Bristol in 2006?
It was pretty big, actually. It was just like Aardman was big. They were just starting to kind of introduce more courses like that at UE. probably because of the success of like Chicken Run, I think, probably about that time. And the course was, I think, in its second year. And it was like, yeah, it was exciting. They had encounters, which was huge. They had the animation encounter specific. And in terms of animation in Bristol, it was just sort of kicking off. It felt really exciting to kind of be part of that industry in that way, because there was lots of opportunity. So yeah, it was good.
So for anybody that doesn't know, can you explain what Encounters?
Oh yeah, so Encounters was like is a short film festival that is hosted in Bristol, and I think at the time it had like a short live action event, and it also had an animated single a festival, but there was loads of funding. It was European wide. It created lots of stir. If you got into Encounters, whether it be your animation or your live action, it gave you you knew you were doing well.
Right.
So yeah, it was a great city to be going to university, especially if you were working in animation or even or live action as well.
Did you see much of the Aardman lot, or did anybody come to you? Did you go to anybody? Did you get him? Was there any kind of help?
Well, at the time, our course leader, Mark Hewis, who now heads up the Ardham Academy, actually, he was really good because he was a short filmmaker and he had really good contacts. So, yes, people from Ardham would come and speak to us, or he would bring in different people or show us lots of short films all the time. So it didn't feel like you were just focusing on animation. He was celebrating short film in general. So it made the animation course great because you were getting insight to animation, but also short film. And he was giving you insights to the industry within Bristol itself. So
amazing. So did you feel like when you left, did you feel that you were fairly well prepared for what the industry might expect of you, or did you have to did you need to work before you kind of filled any gaps?
I think they were pretty good. I think you had to fight for it. They were pretty good in terms of it was a very classic course, and you'd make your final film, and then they did help you get I did a 3-month sort of bursary placement with Mark, actually, because he made a Channel 4 film, and then other people went to Ardman and did similar sort of short stints there. So they were great at getting you kind of in certain points in the industry. Not everybody obviously in the year group got to do that, but they kind of provided opportunities for you to apply to do that, or they'd tell you where your next step might be. Is an MA, or is it in the industry, or is it London? So they were pretty good at sort of helping you get your foot in the door.
Wicked, because I remember when I left university, I was completely unprepared.
Yeah. I mean, a lot of people are, and they just don't know what they're doing.
So it was having to get experience once you were out the door that was those first 2 years actually working in London were.
I still think it's
beneficial.
I still think it's like that. I still think basically you just have to be prepared to anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, they did help a little bit. But I'd like to think that maybe universities now are kind of preparing students more than they were back.
Yeah. Boom Satsuma that we
Yes.
work with quite a lot. Shout out to them. They're doing some great work, and we've had some people on our sets recently.
Yes.
And we love supporting those guys. I think they do really well. So you leave UE.
Yep.
Then you get a job in a bar.
Well,
what happens?
do you know what? I left UE and I worked with Mark for a bit, and then I got some funding to make my own short film, which was great and
Awesome.
actually unheard of. It wasn't loads of money, so I made an animation. I entered it into Depict, which was a short film competition run through Encounters. It gets in. So I was like, maybe I'm going to be an animation director. Didn't seem very me, but I was like, fine, I'm up for it. And yeah, that was great. And then, I made it, and then nothing really happened after that. And obviously you need to work, and then ended up working in production and working for a production company in Bath, and then kind of left maybe some of that animation behind. Well, in a way, my own work, and started facilitating other young people, which was what the production company did. They worked with young people or schools or adults to kind of facilitate using animation or filmmaking with those people. So I ended up taking kind of almost what I was doing for myself and just sharing it to others.
Wicked.
And did that for a few years, which was great. I worked on loads of big projects and worked with adults who were homeless, or through the Big Issue, or charities. And yeah, it felt rewarding to kind of work in that way within the industry. It was great.
Awesome. And was there never a temptation to go to London?
Do you know what? I did apply to the RCA. I was like, well, if I'm going to go to London, I'll go to the Royal College of Art.
Yeah.
But I didn't get in,
No.
so I didn't bother.
So it's always been Bristol. You've always been Bristol.
Yeah, I think I have always been Bristol. I think Bristol had my heart. Somewhere.
There's plenty here, isn't there? Why do you think that Bristol is such a creative place? Like the graffiti scene in Bristol is obviously like a huge thing. I think we're the capital of Europe when it comes to graffiti. Do you think it comes from that, or is it further back than that? Is it music? I
think it's everything. I think it's just a way of life here, actually. Everyone thinks in a kind of, I don't want to stereotype, but we're kind of like, it's sort of all a way of life that kind of encourages a way of thinking that seems to kind of emphasize creativity in a way. Yeah, Bristol really, there's lots of different ways you can be creative. It really kind of encourages it in everything about it, whether or not it's like the little pockets of parts of the city, whether it's the people you meet, whether it's like the companies that base here. I think it's a lot about everything to do with the city that kind of encourages that.
It does feel like, one big creative melting pot.
You always feel like you're meeting people that are creative in one way or another. And then I suppose that kind of, it becomes a sort of ripple effect.
How have you seen the industry change in terms of being a woman in the industry?
I think you're seeing more women doing what was like male-dominated roles for sure. When I was at Aspect, there was like, we were a creative team of like 3 or 4 women at one point. So we were really heavy on that side, which was quite unusual. So I do think there is more creative females and there is more female directors. Now it just needs to be that it's not like a token thing, that you're actually asking that director because they're good and they deserve to be there. But just interestingly, on the female point, though, I've mainly worked with female CEOs, managers, the bosses. So, the 2 long companies, the 2 companies I've worked the longest, so 10 years apiece, they both had female managers.
Pitching. Should people be paid for pitching?
Of course they should.
But
I mean, like, for example...
it's only their time.
Well, for example, so I was pitching on a project fairly recently and was involved a little bit in the creative development, paid, which was great. And it was really nice to be brought on a bit early to kind of feel part of that process. They were very open. They said, look, we're still going to take it to kind of a couple of directors for pitch. And that was great. And actually, this was paid for my time. But what I found was, because of the industry and the way that people are so competitive to get work, I did a treatment which was fair of the time I was paid for and which I felt delivered to the brief. And then had sort of seen what other people had done, and I'm competing with like a 40-page deck.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's where, if you're getting into that level of like territory when you're pitching for free and you're producing a deck of that size, which I have seen other people do for work, it's just, I can't compete with that. I don't have the time to kind of to do that level of work to maybe win a job. And I think if agencies are expecting that, it's insane. Like, I think if agencies must have a nominal fee. Like I am sometimes paid, and I think, I'm paid like a nominal fee to pitch for the work, and I think that's fair. But most of the time you're not, and then you're not even told if you've won the job. Sometimes you have to chase. Is it going ahead? And there's, oh no, the client's gone away. You're like, okay, I did do all that work for you.
Which does happen a lot, and is very frustrating on our part as a producer. It's very frustrating when the client just goes quiet and we get ghosted. That does happen, but I think one of the things which I guess is disappointing for everybody involved is when there's no feedback. So I think first and foremost, what would be great would be feedback, right? But with free pitching, what do you think it breeds?
I think it breeds like a competitiveness, and I think it makes you feel like you don't know where your boundaries are, how much you should be doing, how much you should be giving, and it also makes you feel like you're lucky. You're really lucky that you're pitching for that job, and I just find it crazy that the industry's like, not paying someone who's experienced, who's delivering like a really good, comprehensive director's treatment and has spent time, maybe days, maybe weeks even, depending on what level. And they've gone to all that effort, and then that's it.
It starts everything off on the wrong foot. Just asking people to pitch for free, say it's 3 or 5 people or companies, I worry that it means you don't have to have a clear idea of your route. I wonder whether it's counterproductive, because you have no idea where you're starting, and I don't know. I just wonder if it brings more problems. I think if you had to pay somebody to pitch, you'd think about it a lot more. You'd think about which direction you want to go in.
Yeah, and I think there's a few nuances. Like, agencies won the work. Like, it puts all the risk on the director. The agency are just getting directors to kind of feed to the client. The agency wins every time because they've won the work. So I'm like, well, in that case, they should definitely pay a nominal fee for the director. If it's an agency who's themselves pitching for the work and they're just getting directors to be on board, I feel like, well, everyone's in that together, right? You're all kind of risking something. The agency's risking their time to pull the pitch together, and the director's like, well, okay, I'm willing to do it. I'm in there. The alternative one, where they've won the work, it just feels like, well, that's all the risk, all the kind of stuff is on the director. And I suppose that's the kind of scenario which I feel like is wrong.
Yeah.
I feel like, that shouldn't be the case. Whereas if you're all in it together and everyone knows what you're getting into, then it's fine. Win-win.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's a bit of traction being gained at the moment with...
Yeah. There's like, there's like a petition, and I think there's enough networks now, directors networks, either in Bristol or like UK wide, where people are kind of almost all kind of agreeing, or trying to. However, as we know, the industry's been all over the shop, and I think people will still say, but I just need work, I'll do whatever it takes. And I think the agencies and companies know there's that little bit of desperate energy, so we'll push it.
Well, I guess there will always be people that are willing to work for free. It's not a simple one, but
no,
interesting nonetheless. So it's not a secret that it's been quite tricky in the industry for the past few years. Like, I always know when people are quiet, because I'll get like, hi, how you doing? As a producer,
emails.
it's like, but often it's like one every now and then. It's like, how are you doing? Just reaching out, want a fancy coffee.
20.
But I'm getting a lot, and I'm getting it from people that I wouldn't have expected to get it from. Yeah. So that to me is, I mean, we know that there's less work out there because we're making work, and we're making less work. So how has it been for you? Well,
I think I chose the really wrong time to go freelance. No, I'm joking. No, but seriously, when I was like, right, I'm gonna quit, I'm gonna go freelance. The reason was that I just wanted to kind of just see what it was like out there, do different work. Aspect was great, but I felt like I just wanted a new challenge. But I think everyone was like, what are you doing? Don't do that. But to be fair, you kind of at risk, if the industry is kind of a bit shaky, you could be at risk with an employer. You don't know.
Sure.
So I found it. I definitely found the first 6 months a challenge. It helped being in a city. I've been, like we were saying, being in a city for 15 years and knowing companies and knowing people and being kind of quite active within that. That did help. I did pick up work quite easily, but there were definitely moments was like, what the fuck have I done? Like, I've made a huge mistake. Both me and my husband are freelance. I've got 2 kids. I need to pay the mortgage. And there were moments where I was like, okay, I don't know what to do. I think I might need to get a job again. But then things started. I just worked really hard at like reaching out to people and kind of emailing people and meeting up with people. It wasn't just emailing. It was actually kind of making the effort to go and meet people. Yeah. Like literally go into someone's office and go for a cup of coffee or do a FaceTime, whatever. And I made a real effort, and I think for that it paid off maybe now. But however, I still get worried, like, oh, I haven't got anything in May. And that, I think that's normal. But it's been challenging, but I do feel like I've maybe skirted around it a little bit, she says, with the touching word. But I think that's because I've been quite persevered. I've persevered. And also, like we were saying, I've been open. I've done directing predominantly, but I've done the odd producing job as well.
Yeah.
Because if I've got the time and it's a great project, of course I'm not going to, like a production, like, you know, a producer is still really creative in terms of the way that role works. And I still feel really passionate about that. So, yeah, I've been quite open to the work that I've been doing as well. So it's been okay. But it's not great out there.
No, it's not.
It's worrying, you know, seeing friends and colleagues and stuff like meeting for coffee and they are broken. Like a lot of people are quite broken. I think a lot of people are leaving the industry and just it's a lot of stress and emotional stress to kind of to handle. And I think because of the sort of impact on the drama side of things, it's fed into commercials. Then you've got post-COVID, you've got recession, everything that's going on. It's a bit of a, not nice.
It feels like it's very finely balanced. You know, you've got studios that need to really be full all the time because rents are high. And then, you know, like say things like in drama, like the writer strike or those things can kind of have knock-on effects.
But I suppose, there needs to be a flexibility, or you need to be flexible, or you need to kind of, and I suppose that maybe that's not, my husband will always say, it's not easy for everybody to be like that. And I think that's where like you need like other strings to your bows, or like it needs to be a bit more fluid and not too rigid. And I suppose that comes from the way that I've always been, and I stand by. You know, people would be like, "Oh, why have you still got producing on your website?" And I was like, "Well, because I think I think more so than ever, I'm getting asked if I can cover both, but because content's different. You know, if it's social content, it doesn't need like a producer, it doesn't need everybody in that same way."
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's very true. On a practical level, for anybody watching that wonders how you do it, like for a freelancer, when you seeing May, there's no work or whatever, how over the years have you planned for that? Do you have are you like 6 months ahead, 3 months ahead? What, you know, how can you mitigate for those?
Yeah,
those
it's
moments?
tricky. I'm always conscious of it, like always.
Which is probably a good thing.
Yeah, so although, you know, I've got work at the moment, I will be kind of sense checking with people that I've not heard from, or if I've got a piece of work, I'll put it on Instagram or sending it to people. I think it's a permanent thing, and I don't feel like it's like I'll get to sort of mid-April and be like, shit, I need to contact people. I think it's a constant thing for me. So if I've not really been in touch with, I'll have like a little note of people that I've not reached out to for a while, and be conscious of just reaching out to them. Or if there's new people, then there's that. It's hard, but I think that's for me what works for me. Other people will say that, you know, they'll make their own thing, they'll make short films, which is a luxury, but they'll do that, and that will kind of bring work in off the back of that. But like I was saying, to make your own short films, it's like, well, you need time, money, and the people to do it. And unfortunately, I have none of those. So that won't happen. But, you know, there are other ways. I mean, I'm doing a project for Media Trust at the minute. So giving my directing time for free, and they're giving me a budget of, you know, $2,500, and I'm working with a local charity. So for me, that's a passion project.
Yeah.
I'm giving something, there'll be a sort of hero film for that charity to raise awareness of homelessness. My time isn't paid for, but at least that's something that feels like I can, grow as a director and has a budget behind it. So I suppose that's where I'm trying to kind of marry the two things.
Yeah.
There's a few really lovely groups kind of emerging in Bristol. There's one led by Nikita Soul, which is like for female.
I've heard about this
females in the industry, which I think is great, because there are some challenges that I think women face that just men won't, like having kids, having a baby, being pregnant. Like I know that men obviously also have kids, but it's it's different. So I think those groups are amazing, and it's amazing that's kind of starting to happen, and kind of bring those people together. They can talk about different things, like, you know, finances or self-employment or childcare, because having kids in our industry, whether or not you're self-employed or you're kind of employed, it's really hard, right?
So what are your ambitions for your career from here on in?
Do you know what? I was thinking about that at the beginning of the year, and I'm not altogether sure. I think I want to kind of, I've been working with a brand recently, just like kind of really holistically looking at their sort of social content, and that's really interesting, and kind of having a bit more of maybe of a top line view. I don't necessarily think I might not be freelance forever either. I kind of would really like to work in a way where I'm kind of more holistic and kind of looking at like how things all piece together. Likewise, it'd be great to kind of do more direct more commercials. But, like I was saying, I'm also aware that it's a really competitive world. So as much as I would love to do it, I'm also I'm kind of aware that I need to kind of just be thinking about what else is there, how else can I kind of fit into the industry that isn't directing big TVCs, because unfortunately they are like little cherries that
few and far between.
Yeah, and I'm realistic enough to know that I'm not just going to sit around waiting for those to come to me. I don't know if that answers your question.
I think it's a really difficult question to ask. Like, what are your ambitions? I think it depends on your stage in life, doesn't it? What advice would you give to people coming through?
Yeah, I did
wanting to work in the advertising industry.
Yeah, I think it's really tricky. I did a talk with the BFI Academy recently about just starting out and doing CVs and marketing yourself and going to networking and stuff like that. And I think it's really tough. I think you just have to be quite open to what you want to do, and be quite forthcoming. And I think you have to use a lot of your own initiative, because I think to find out what's going on takes like quite a lot of trawling. Like I find it like I'll suddenly hear about some sort of like funding scheme or a networking event. I'm like, didn't know about that. And so I think having a network of people and using that network of people is really important. So whether that's the people that you went to university with, or you're living in a new town or something like that, and using your tutors and using anybody, just kind of creating a network that you can kind of rely on, and also just being really open to anything that kind of remotely comes your way, opportunity-wise, because you just don't know what's going to happen with that. So yeah.
Or who you'll meet.
Yeah, exactly. So just being really open-minded and tenacity. And you do have to be kind of like quite focused and know what you want.
I guess it takes time to build a network, doesn't it? It takes time to meet people, and for, to get an opportunity, to then try and convert that opportunity.
Yeah, and
unfortunately,
it is all who you know.
Yeah.
And like that is kind of depressing, because it's sort of like, but it is. But then to know those people, you have to kind of put yourself in the positions to meet them, right? Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I think it's just, putting yourself out there and not being afraid having confidence to do so. Because I don't think most people are really nice. So I don't think anyone's going to go, you're shit. Like, or I don't want to speak to you, or I don't want to meet you for coffee. Most people will meet or kind of be open. Yeah. And I think that's probably a really important thing to say, because I think people are sometimes a bit afraid to kind of email someone, whether or not be someone who's like a freelancer like myself, or someone who's fresh out of uni. What's the worst that can happen? And most of the time they are waiting for that email to come to you. Yeah. So
yeah. What is the worst that can happen? They don't reply. That's pretty much literally the worst that can happen. Like, the chances are that somebody's going to say, pop in for a cup of tea. Yeah. Or let's go for a coffee or whatever.
Exactly.
So finally, the podcast is called The Happy Half Hour. And we like to find out what makes our guests happy in their work. In their work. So what's been your happiest moment, like, or moments professionally?
Oh my God, that's really hard.
Just pick one. No.
Just pick one?
No, I mean, it can be, I guess it can be.
There's several. I mean, we did a big project for James Miller Aspect, and I took about most of the Aspect team, we all went to Cyprus to shoot a big TVC. And do you know what? It was like going on a big kind of family holiday. And it was great because I was like handling a huge project, big budget. I was traveling 30 people over to Cyprus, but we all had such a really nice time. So that was good. It was super stressful. I did feel like the adult in the room, but it was a very good time. So that was really memorable. And, you know, yeah, they were great fun times. And then, yeah, seeing my work, like whether it be on screen, like although I am absolutely mortified to watch my own work, I'm really bad. Yeah, I've walked out not pictures professionally. Like when I was at uni, like seeing my own work, I am just like this. And but I am secretly proud.
Yeah.
But I'm just very bashful about it. So yeah, seeing my own work on like whether it's TV or screens is super good, but I can't watch it.
Well, you should be proud because, like, you're clearly a bit of a Bristol institution, if that's the right word. But you know, nobody's got a bad word to say about you, and you certainly feel like one of the adults in the room when it comes to the creative industry of Bristol. So, well done.
Thanks
for getting here. And that's it. Yeah, thanks for joining us for the Happy Half Hour podcast. Been lovely and genuinely insightful. Thanks a lot, Elle.
Thanks.